present you Mihael Tomić from Mono. He'll be talking about Gator UI. So give him a warm welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Jan. Today we're going to talk about Gator UI. It's our internal toolkit for rapid prototyping. And in case you're wondering, yes, this is an actual footage of our last client meeting. Yes. Okay, so first of all, thanks to all the great people from who organized this conference. It's great, and good luck for next year. Quick introduction. Currently I work at Mono. Mono is more than 15 years old, and we are creating custom software design and development. I should also mention my young daughter, so here's one for her. Okay, yeah, so let's get to the UI toolkit. Yeah, so first, how it all started. It started with 4 guys who were working together in a company, and we decided that we're through with Bootstrap and all other toolkits and their dependencies and everything. So we decided to start. We started thinking about our own toolkit and how we can improve our workflow. And since then, some things have changed, and some of them left and created their own companies, started their own companies, and we gained 2 designers and 1 developer. You can guess who's developer in this picture. Yeah, so why another toolkit? So as I mentioned, we wanted the new toolkit to speed up our workflows. We wanted to have more control over CSS mixins, variables, and overall CSS architecture. Of course, we wanted to break from dependency hell and from all those npm node modules which are constantly updated in other toolkits, and they tend to crash and stop to work. And of course, for everything else, we wanted to adjust it to our own needs. And with all that, we wanted to merge a design and development team to work on a single project and to create something that will ease the process for all of us. For start, what was our vision? So we want this single source of truth, so-called, and in our case it was a block unit, which was we took 6 pixels, and material design, I think it's on 4 pixels, so we took 6 because for our building block, because it was really great for multiplying, dividing, and so on. Our choice tool was PostCSS. It's a tool which transforms styles with JavaScript plugins. So just like for comparison, PostCSS had CC8 68,000 downloads in 2017, and in 2018 there's more than 390,000 downloads of this tool. The main reason is that PostCSS is written in JS. It works with Gulp, with Grunt, with Webpack, with all of the Webpacks, and it has great performance. So first tool that we worked with was, of course, Sass. And I don't know if anyone worked with Sass here, but the first version on Ruby was pretty much awful. So here's the performance graph. As you can see, it's in milliseconds, so it compiled pretty much a long time. And PostCSS is really 3 times faster than libsass, which is current version of Sass. So all this can be found on preprocessors benchmark on GitHub, so you can check out the stats. Yeah, so the plugins which we used were and still are mainly written in simple needs. So we needed something that we can replace Sass, but we didn't want to create our own preprocessor like SAS, so we decided to shorten up things and basically kick out everything which is not regular like CSS, but to maintain some flexibility with CSS nesting and some other mixins and variables which are really similar to JavaScript variables. Our structure is made of base CSS, component CSS, modules, third-party plugins, tools, utils, variables, and views. So we had Webpack to the rescue. The first version we developed of Gator was written with Gulp, and Gulp is a great tool, and we of course knew the process of building pipes and tasks in Gulp, but in Webpack for designer it's a bit different. So Webpack is a module bundler and a task runner, and something that's definitely not for designers. So we left that part to our developers. Yeah, as I mentioned, this is the first version process, and the second version is written in Webpack 4, post-CSS, and HTML. I should just mention that this toolkit is written as static HTML like builder for prototyping, and it's great because it combines best of like both worlds. It combines our knowledge of front end, which we as designers know, and the developers can quickly connect and create their own backend with our front end. So we used HTML Webpack plugin for templates, and of course Webpack can read partials, so we also separated chunks of code into logical like parts, like header, favicon, footer, and so on. Just in case, you know, if we didn't want to repeat ourselves on every single page, as you're familiar, of course, with building applications. Our choice, naming convention choice, was BAM, and it's a methodology written by, naming methodology written by Russian Yandex. Something similar to Google, just for the Russian market. And it's really great methodology that helps us to create usable components and code which we can share in front-end development in the project. Yeah, so the best thing about BAM is that there's a lot of consistency there, and everyone from the team can jump in and work on the project in the middle, from the start, or from at the end of the project. So I'll just try to show a few examples of our code. So here's the HTML example, how we structured our code. So based on BAM methodology, we created button-based styling, which is called BTN, and we also have like button primary, which is for button styles, and small, large, medium is for button sizes, of course. And it really eases out the process with modifiers, and it really separates us from this whole, how would I say, like chaos of writing different styles, and whoever joins to the project writes his own button. Now we have like separated module or component for button. Of course, we did the same thing with spacers, where we used this unit, which I mentioned at the beginning. So everything is written in units. So we calculate through PostCSS calc and create like unit times 4. It's maybe like medium margin value. So like 24 pixels would be medium margin value. Our inputs are also defined in a similar way. We had some difficulties. If you work with inputs, then you know it's pretty much difficult to style checkboxes and radio buttons and so on. So there we also try to keep consistency and to create components which are which can be shared across the project. We created, of course, our own grid, which is called Riki and Baba. And Riki is Flexbox, so it's for modern browsers, and it really helps us a lot with solving issues like equal column heights and so on. And of course, Floated is for projects or for clients who demand support of all older browsers, which don't support Flexbox. Yeah. Okay, so here's the example of one simple grid. Grid can also be nested inside another grid, and we have like row, which is like wrapper. We have call, and sizes can be responsive right in the HTML without writing additional CSS in our style sheets. So the one thing that is important is to have like row, because it just breaks without rows. Yeah, so typography is really important part of design process, and we had a lot of attention for typography. So we created a typomatic tool, which our colleague Andre, who left, created, and after we crafted and adjusted to our needs, it was rewritten, stripped from some dependencies from SAS, and it basically creates a vertical rhythm on a page using font sizes, baseline heights, and line height on the HTML element. So this would be like example of how some type utility works. Of course, here's a potential danger with this second row, where you can see span class, type small, type uppercase, type letter space wide. Because if you have like that class or that stack of classes on 20 pages, of course, when client after, I don't know, half a year of development comes and say, you know, I really don't like this uppercase, can you please remove it? You have to go through, I don't know, 20 files and manually remove all of them. So of course, this should be replaced with a single class, which is really specified specific for this title or something. Yeah, of course, we implemented also PostCSS inline SVGs, and it mostly works with, we work with color functions and variables. It's really simple to use. It outputs like inline SVG, which you'll see in the example. So the good thing about this is also it supports color functions. It supports variables. It can support also CSS4 variables or simple var variables, which we took from PostCSS plugin. So this would be the input, and this would be the real output from this plugin. Yeah. So that's the last thing which we incorporated in our workflow, and it really solves some issues with SVG, and of course for some complex things like SVG animation, we still use inline SVGs with CSS classes and JavaScript on it. So the thing to conclude with is really, should you use, should someone build a toolkit for themselves? Should your company, or should you build toolkit? It really, like everything in the world, it depends. It depends. Maybe you only need Bootstrap, which is really fine, but for scalable, for custom-made projects which clients all the time iterate, it's really a great thing to have. So I will conclude with that our choice was to build toolkit to ease the process of front-end delivery to the development team from our design perspective. And it really works well at the moment, and we decided to, of course, to continue developing it, and it's really integrated a lot in our workflow at this point. So I would like to hear if you have any questions considering this, what we just talked about.
We have a few minutes for questions, so if anyone's interested. Yep.
Thanks. Have you open sourced the
Yeah, I was waiting for that question. Not yet. Not yet. We still don't have like dedicated team which could be on. Like,
yeah, that was to be my next question. Yeah, because
Yeah.
that means something else.
Yeah, because you know it's difficult to open source something, put it in the wild, and just like left it there. It would be like you're leaving your newborn baby in the forest with wolves.
Okay, so but maybe three benefits are comparing to like working with Bootstrap.
Mm-hmm.
Three benefits of having your own.
Okay. Yeah, the first is control over every single thing which happens in the development process through our plugins. So the plugins also, that's the one thing. We have maximum control. We are deciding which plugins should be inside our toolkit and which shouldn't be inside. The other thing is that there's a really large ecosystem of plugins for PostCSS, and there's so much things you can do with PostCSS and you can't do with Sass, libsass, or less, whichever preprocessor you're using. And the third thing, it's ability to remove plugins when they're not necessary. For example, if you're using something for a new project, which can work on new browsers, then of course you can remove, for example, CSS variables, PostCSS variables, and replace them with CSS4 variables, which are now supported in majority of new browsers. That's true. So, is anyone else interested in something? Yeah, it's difficult to strip all of this large toolkit in 20 minutes. So I hope you get a glimpse of what we're doing.
I only have only one question more. So when you are I'm not completely like confident in this area because it's not mine. But when you are slicing, for example, a design to your to your framework, when you are using your framework to actually implement the design, which is a
Okay.
picture image, is it make any like does your own framework contribute to that process, to that work, or it's completely irrelevant of the technology you are like slicing?
So is our design first design process like mockups? Are they? Can we enhance them or?
It's kind of like picture, like picture which is like.
Okay, so for example, we have high fidelity mockup,
Yeah. So,
and we have our own tool. So can this tool like enhance?
yeah, because when you are copying from the usually the tools are using like CSS generic.
No,
So
yeah.
you copy from the picture like element. So how you incorporate your like framework?
What's the workflow of?
Yeah, what's the workflow?
Yeah, so the workflow is, in most of the times, we design our own, like design. When I talk about, I'm thinking about visual design, UI design. So we're designing high fidelity mockups, and with that in mind, we already have like, we're thinking about how can we adjust that to our into our Gator UI toolkit, and it's for me, it's actually the same. You know, if someone sends me mockups, which I need to integrate, implement or not, it's simple because of modularity. Because we have like modules and components which are easily replaceable, and we can reuse some of them because you know all the websites have some similar things. Headers, every website has header, every website has navigation. It's just a matter of CSS, how will we position it, of course. If that's, if I understood correctly.
Okay, if that's all for the questions, we're going to take a little break. We have coffee and snacks in the lobby. Hope you stay here later and to join you at 2:40 with Courtney Hemphill.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mihael.